You know, I've always wondered why Almost Heroes is not better remembered as a comedy classic, or at the very least, a cult classic, a status the film never really achieved. Yet. You know, I guess you can call it an almost cult classic, if you will. Shout out to those guys. But, you know, for whatever reason, it never quite made the cut. That could be for a lot of different reasons, though. I don't know. A CHRIS Farley team-up movie without David Spade? Or was it the slapstick elements in the film that the 90s audience found just too hot to handle? Or was it the similarly plot-driven film Wagons East, which featured John Candy in his final starring role? Was that the reason that, you know, some attention was taken away from Almost Heroes? Or was it the grim duality of Almost Heroes also becoming a final starring role for another legend in CHRIS Farley? For whatever reasons, I honestly feel that Almost Heroes gets better with age, and has much going for it when it comes to standout time period comedy. A film with some real prestige on screen, and one hell of a cast. Including, of course, the late great Matthew Perry. I cannot understate how long I've been a fan of Matthew Perry, and always will be. If you didn't know, I am a pretty big fan of Friends. Chandler Bing is still my favorite of the bunch, and I've seen nearly all of his output. I remember Matthew Perry popping up in Growing Pains when I was a kid. I saw Fools Rush In, Three to Tango, Serving Sarah, all of them. Saw him at the movies, Fools Rush In being another personal favorite of mine. So with Matthew Perry's recent passing, well, I wanted to talk about some of his films, starting with one of my all-time favorite 90s comedies, Almost Heroes.
We're about to embark on an unprecedented adventure to the great Northwest.
Now get in the boat!
It's a journey through uncharted wilderness.
The film tells the tale of Leslie Edwards, who plans to reach the Pacific before the famous explorers Lewis and Clark. A task that will require the poshy explorer to lower his standards when it comes to hiring the crew that has to take his treacherous journey along with him, especially when it comes to the guide on the trip, a drunken, nasty mongrel, Bartholomew Hunt, played here in perfect fashion by CHRIS Farley in his final starring role. I somehow forgot that Christopher Guest directed this movie, who you guys know, he's the most popular mockumentary director of all time, easily. You know, I'm a huge fan of all those films, my favorite being Best in Show, A Mighty Wind is badass too, and I'm pretty partial to Waiting for Guffman. You know, I've been working here at DQ for about... However, Christopher Guest wasn't strictly of the genre, and aside from acting in some notable roles in assorted films, well, he also directed some straightforward movies, kind of. Most notable, to me at least, was The Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, a movie that was on cable literally all the damn time back in the day, and was inadvertently my first exposure to Christopher Guest. And, you know, it's one hell of a flick. Not much for actual quality there, but you didn't really need it with that one. And same here with Almost Heroes, I guess. I mean, it could have been far more schlocky than it was. I've honestly always been pleasantly surprised with the film's quality. I'm guessing it's due to Christopher Guest's involvement, as his films, you know, practical or not, they never really relied on budget, and nearly every scene he shot to this point was small scale in all of his movies. Whereas here with Almost Heroes, I mean, damn, nearly every shot looks genuine and realistic and, quite frankly, expensive. Mainly the film's grand outdoor scenes and stuff like that, like the boat they travel on, the overall, you know, just the scale of the film in general. And it really does kind of feel pretty damn epic for a comedy on this level.
It was me! I ate sheep shit! I swear I
Yes, clever twist on the end there.
And hell, Christopher Guest even brings a familiar cast. We get greats like Bokeem Woodbine, Louis Arquette, Kevin Dunn, and a hilarious spin-off worthy role from David Packer as Bidwell.
Revenge is sweet.
And the comedy is so defiant here. There's no other word for it. I mean, we get all kinds of takes on it, from sight gags to gross out humor to slapstick to straight up wacky animatronics. I mean, if it's comedy you want, it doesn't matter what you're looking for. Almost Heroes most certainly has it. I don't know. I mean, Almost Heroes kind of was the bridge between those early 90s SNL hits and the later, more decadent adult-themed output from Hollywood, which of course makes it a very unique and fun vehicle for Chris Farley. I mean, it doesn't take much to understand why Chris Farley is here in this film. This was a tough time for the dude, obviously, as we all know by now, as he was trying like hell to make more of an impression on film and get his personal life together at the same time. And with Almost Heroes, well, we get a genuine take on this and a glimpse of what could have been down the line for Chris Farley. As here, well, it's not just another fatty fall down movie, and he isn't so reliable on his co-star for laughs. I mean, and hell, there's times where we're directly laughing at him, and it's for legitimate, hilarious reasons, and not just because he's the fat guy being dumb, Don't get me wrong, I mean, I like nearly all of Chris Farley's output. And I don't think Almost Heroes is his worst film, not at all. That one I give to Beverly Hills Ninja, which yes, has its moments, sure, but I for one would say that's my least favorite character. And my all-time favorite leading role from Farley is definitely Bartholomew Hunt. Although, yeah, my all-time favorite character in general is like the little bit part that he played in A Dirty Work. I believe his name was Jimmy, remember that shit? As for co-star Matthew Perry, well, of course I love him in this movie too. However, it's pretty clear that he was not the first choice, as other actors like Bill Murray and Hugh Grant were in talks for the role. Yet I don't think Spade was ever considered at this time, I mean, he was, quite frankly, those guys were just trying to get separated from each other and do their own thing. That being said, I can't help but think that this would have worked way better with David Spade in the lead. If anything, just for his deadpan and ego that he brings to his roles. If they would have made this another Chris Farley, David Spade movie, I would have not been disappointed. But hey, they decided to go another route. But Perry does well with what he's given here, and I can't imagine him being the problem with, anybody who doesn't like this movie. It's just, at the time, Perry in a character piece like this, a period piece, may have been a little too far off for Chandler fans to enjoy outright, but whatever. Overall, Almost Heroes makes for a pretty damn unique comedy, basing the subject matter of real-life historical events like the Lewis and Clark expedition, and how it could have gone. That's some ambitious stuff right there, no matter how you slice it. Not that historical comedies are easy to do, or, even have a good track record. My mind goes to stuff like The Holy Grail, before veering off pretty quickly into like Corsican Brothers territory. And I kind of feel like Almost Heroes is just snuggled in between both those films, nice and comfortable, with some straw maidens riding the current into cult classic status someday. Sadly though, the film would be heavily tampered with in post, as that tends to happen. Like, did you know that this film was originally more of an ensemble cast? Not so much like a buddy comedy, something that's pretty evident when watching the film with its huge cast and the kind of lack of camaraderie between our leads. They did a good job with the re-edits and whatnot, but it's still pretty obvious that somewhere around the middle of the film, it just gets a little uneven. And by the final scene, with the reshot ending or whatever happened there, some characters have just totally disappeared. Seriously, where the fuck did Bokeem Woodbine go? Even other Christopher Guest regulars were part of the ensemble cast that were completely cut out of the film, including Parker Posey. How are you going to cut Parker Posey out of your movie?
I've been working here at the DQ for about,
Chris Farley knew that he made a bad movie upon, the first couple edits of the film, the test reactions and whatnot. This is something that Farley did not take lightly, as Farley always strived for excellence and never wanted to let his fans down. And the looming thought of another flop, it just did not lend to any positivity in Farley's way. Rather, it exacerbated the negativity, and Farley wouldn't live to see the film's release. I mean, he should have, with the re-edits and whatnot, and it kind of pushed the film back over a year. But, Farley just never got the chance to see it with the full audience and see how people do really like it nowadays. While the film may not be a legit cult classic, I have yet to meet anybody who doesn't straight up praise the film for its comedic greatness and look at it as a fond comedy from their youth. I mean, I for one think it's a perfect addition to Farley's arsenal of films, making for a unique entry on both he and Perry's filmography in general. Guys, what do you think about Almost Heroes? What other comedy films should I cover? This is one of my all-time favorites. Rest in peace, Matthew Perry, and rest in peace, Chris Farley. Guys, please give me a like. Show these guys some love. Show this movie some love. Let's get it to that cult classic status that it deserves. Like, comment, and subscribe, all that stuff. I have a big announcement coming up soon. Next month is Very Corey Christmas. You guys don't want to go anywhere. Stay right where you're at.